All right. We'll go back to that and try that again.
Okay.
And we'll hope it holds.
David, could you push the chair in so I can see your
Oh,
feet?
sorry. Of course. So if we're in double cannon punch, shift forward, that releases the fists. You turn and set the right foot as much to the front as you can, and continue rotating right and sitting back onto it until you come to 100%, which allows that left foot to float into your cat stance. And basically the aim of that is to that left front corner. And then as you open, the arms change. I'll turn this so you can see me from the front. But you end up with this on a somewhat 45-degree angle.
So you were just touching with your left toe, not the whole foot?
Yep, just the toe,
And the right foot is actually was straight to the front of the room?
as much as possible.
Okay.
On your flexibility. So I'll turn around this way. You'll see the front of me.
Yep.
Be a little easier. So you shift forward, rotate and reset that right foot, ideally empty. Rotate and shift back onto it until you can float that left toe to the corner, and then you open and the palms rotate downward.
Do you continue rotating to the right while you open and separate the hands?
So you're rotating right all the way through to here and
Yep.
then left.
And then left?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
because that first rotation takes you past straight ahead,
Okay.
and then coming back is what uh, t- twists the arms in the other direction.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not know that at all. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it.
And that makes sense if you're thinking the Marshall application of pull down and then, arm, elbow break, arm break,
Yeah,
whatever you call it.
absolutely. Um, I'm I'm just coming here so maybe you can see the body and my arms a little
Yeah,
more clearly.
that's appreciated.
So you shift, reset, keep rotating right, touch, and rotate left.
And the hands are on approximately the side channels.
Yes, the Laogong points are.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I can feel that
Yeah,
in the log points now that you
good,
say, yeah.
good.
Huh.
You should be able to.
Huh.
Do you have other questions?
No, that's much better. Thank you.
Sure. So just again, shift, reset, come back onto it, open, come back to center. From that, you're drawing that left foot in and sinking. Really, as you're doing that, you sink and then you rise. Notice that the arms come in to center and then circle out a little. It's not a big movement, but circle out. So from From here, you come in, sinking, rise, and just release and allow the hands to come into the dantian.
And there's no sinking at that end at the release?
No.
Ah, okay.
So, do you have other question about that? It's relatively straightforward.
Yeah, no, I thought there was a little sink at the very end, but
No,
it's just a release. That's the only difference I had.
nope, you sink and rise and release.
Okay.
So, I'd like to have you guys try that a few times. Um, So Jeff, you want to, in that closing, you want to let the rise lift your arms, and at that point, it's just the arms moving. Just you're releasing all the energy to draw into the center. There's no additional movement. Yeah. So you might want to make that movement of the arms a little smaller and a little more spherical. Ah, good.
Yeah, that helps to be, the spherical edition helps.
Yep,
All right, thanks.
sure. Yeah, so that circle of the arms, Bill, could be a little smaller. I think it'd be a little
Oh,
easier.
smaller, okay. Looks so big when you do
I'm trying to make sure you can see it.
it.
Okay, so um, play peepaw is um, looking mushy to me, and I'm trying to think how to help you clarify that. Um, in a way, I think that you're rushing it, so slowing it down a little may help.
Okay,
Making sure that your steps are empty. That first one is rotating the right back empty is kind of awkward at first. At least it was for me. Yeah, the closing looks good. That was better, Bill. Do you understand the intent of that posture?
Um, maybe you better explain it.
Well, I asked that because it's really the same as the Yang style, but different. and and um, so really being clear about that uh, can be kind of helpful when we're doing, um, as you know, in the Yang style. When we do that, we come into that position, and that final movement, the hands come this way,
Yes.
which um, is easier to understand than this way. But it's the same application, just a sense of the arm in a different position.
Okay.
Um, and I guess my suggestion about just trying to slow it down a little so that you have time and then into this. So one of the things I do want to talk about today is bend and stretch.
Mm,
And
right.
and maybe here's just a good example of that. Obviously here we're at the extension of stretch, and this is actually beginning, interestingly enough, this is the beginning of the bend. And it's coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in, going out, extending, stretching. So one of the things about that, certainly in this style, is that it's tends to be very subtle sometimes, to say the least. I don't know. Does that help you in there, Bill?
Yes. Well, as you pointed out, I tend to rush the whole darn thing. So I suppose it's not a surprise that when I have the finish line in sight.
So, um, any questions for you, Jeff?
No, I think I'm okay now.
Okay. So, um, you have both been exposed to the concepts of lengthening, um, bending and stretching, and opening and closing before. This is certainly not um, in, entirely new information. Um, all three of these often do occur together. And indeed, um, lengthening has to occur in bend and stretch. Bend and stretch and opening and closing can occur together, but don't have to. They can each occur without the other happening. So these are kind of linked concepts, but not identical. And so with bend and stretch is more focused clearly towards the physical movement, and opening and closing is specifically the energetic movement throughout the entire body. And So with bend and stretch, we have to be aware of all the parts bending and stretching, if that's what we're using, if we're doing bend and stretch, and at this stage we are. So one of the things that we have to begin to be aware, we've talked about the elbows and that connection to the scapula, and this actually is a very basic part of bend and stretch. But it also obviously includes the fingers, and they bend and stretch. The hand bends and stretch. The wrist bends and stretch, and it can bend in two directions. And it often is a very small bend. You don't, not something that you see a lot of it. Clearly the elbow we've worked on. And obviously there are two ways. The elbow can bend in the sense of just extending the hand forward and pulling it back in, or it can bend out and in, and that is the other movement of the elbow that has to be present because it connects to the scapula. And then of course there is the movement of the shoulder and the scapula moving into the spine and away from the spine, not to mention its ability to circle and to move forward and back in relation to the ribs. And the connection to the spine, which is critical. And that connection to the spine cannot occur unless all the other parts are present. So every single movement we do, whether it's in the standing Qigong or in the form, has a continual bending and stretching going on. And we're not going to really talk about opening and closing at the moment, although I will just say I don't know how much, I don't remember at this point how much the two of you have studied that, but every joint of the body, 3 joints in the fingers, joints in the hand, wrist, elbow, there are actually 4 joints, the 4 energy gates we think of in the shoulder, including the scapula. That's just in the arm. Every single one of those has an energy gate. And those energy gates expand and contract in a spherical way when you are opening and closing. And that pumps the energy through that joint and on to the next. Not to mention the cavities of the body, which are not necessarily located at joints, which act as kind of power stations along the way, and they also open and close. So that's really the next level. That's down the road a little bit. So what I really want to look at is for us to begin to try to be very, very precise and clear about the fact that we are doing all of the bending and stretching of the arms all the time. And I'm really suggesting that, well, I'm sure you are also doing bending and stretching in the legs and perhaps with the spine as well, that you focus your attention just to the arms, because there's enough going on there that is easier to be clear about than in the rest of the body. So if you can be clear about the arms and really feel them, then it becomes easier to feel what's going on in the legs and eventually the spine. Either of you want to ask a question at this point?
No, I'm following that. I mean, it makes sense. And I must say that I can feel it in the arms at times during the form. So what you're suggesting about making it constant certainly makes sense.
Yeah, good.
Are we always initiating the arms bending and stretching from the spine and scapula?
At this stage, you're probably better off initiating it from the elbow.
From the elbow?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a number of reasons, but a perhaps the most important one is that it is the only by being clear about the connection between the elbow and the scapula that you can be that you're able to consistently move the scapula in the way you want to. That's not saying that you can't eventually move your scapula totally independently, but if if you could not move your elbow, you would not move your scapula. I mean, if you were physically incapable of moving your elbow,
Right.
your scapula wouldn't move. So that connection is really a, an important element in this at the moment, because that has to be developed, and it's the one that we lose pretty easily, because we get so focused on the hand that the elbow collapses, and all of a sudden there's no connection there. And the difference between connected and not connected may be tiny. And it's something you have to feel. So it's the connection of the elbow there is critical. And so initially at this point, you're developing that constant awareness of that connection of the movement of the elbow, so that you can do all kinds of movements without losing the connection to the scapula. Because it is very easy to do that. So, clearly, it's easier to work on this in the standing work, because you get a chance and you can certainly make it go on as long as you're able to do it. You can do repetitive movements in a variety of positions, which allows you to develop that awareness of the bending and stretching of the entire arm, from the fingertips to the spine. And then hopefully it's a little easier to go into the form, but the form, of course, has the problem of its, yes, there are repetitions, but they don't come usually one right after the other. They're widely separated by many other movements.
Right.
So it's a really important piece, and it's just one element. So the ones we really are going to work on right at the moment are hopefully lengthening, bending and stretching, twisting, and certainly breathing. I'm hoping that neither of you tends to hold your breath. That we consider that a negative.
Yeah.
Right.
So um, let's do our standing, and um, really, I'm going to turn sideways to the camera, I think, just to see if that helps. And I'll try to stay a little closer to the camera so that you can see my arms where they're going,
Good.
Okay.
and hopefully I can demonstrate what I'm trying to communicate verbally, which is 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 often not completely clear. It's hard to um, describe something that you have to feel.
Right. Yeah. We definitely need the visual component.
I got the chair out of the way. So obviously in this, we don't have a lot of foot movement, so I'm just going to stay here where you can tend to see what my arms are actually doing. So we, of course, start with just stepping out, and I will say, as you begin to go into the step, the arms are bending in, and as you come into center, they're extending out, and you're going into that basic position. And then in the transition to Qiang, heaven, the arms are going to bend in and then extend out. And as you go into pulsing, they're going to bend in and extend out. So this has to include the fingers bending, the hands bending, the wrist bending, the elbows bending, the scapula being pushed in, and then all of that reverses going out. And it's continuous, ideally. And then traveling down to Kun Earth, you circle in and then out. So bend and stretch. And then bend in, extend out. So notice that my elbows are pushing the scapula in, pulling the scapula out. And then to Kan, water, bending in, extending out. Bend in, extend out. And everything is involved, the whole arm. And ideally, you feel it all the way back to the spine. Then bending in and extending out. In and out. like the word extend better than stretch, because stretch tends to indicate a hard movement. And we're including lengthening in this. So when you come to here, you're lengthening out. That means release, letting it go. And as you bend in, you're lengthening in. That's not a tight movement. And out. And then bending in, extending out. In and out. Trying to constantly be aware of where the elbows are and what they are doing. Pushing the scapula into the spine, pulling the scapula away from the spine. And bending in, extending out. Not letting the elbows ever collapse or lose that connection. Pushing the scapula into the center and out. Feeling that link between the scapula and the spine. Bending in, extending out. And trying to continuously find not only the circles, but ideally the sphericalness of all the movements. And then bending in, extending out. Bending in, extending out. Bend and stretch. Lengthen in, lengthen out. And bending and stretching. And bending and stretching. So questions in there?
No,
No,
Okay. So when we go into the form, we want that bending and stretching continue right on through what we're doing there. So just starting at the beginning, and I really suggest that in working on this, you really slow the movements down so that you can really begin to feel what you're trying to feel. So when you do start, that first movement, that first bending movement is where the elbows connect to the scapula. So as you're spiraling down into the right, you're bending, and then as you step, you're beginning to extend, and there is an extension as you go to pung. As you continue to rotate and shift forward, there's a very quick bend and stretch. And your shift and rotation go all the way through to G. And that is probably the hardest single part of this particular movement. So that's one of the reasons I'm suggesting you go very slowly, because that's hard to put that all in there if you go too fast at first. So you're bending, stretching, bend, stretch. Then lu is a bend, and that bend continues into the start of on, and then you have an extend. Any question there?
One more time, please. I'm still trying to grasp all that little bending and stretching in there, because I was not doing that up till now.
Oh, I did not expect you were.
Yeah, making the transition in my mind now, I'm trying to do it, so.
Yeah. So we begin Taiji. So we're bending, connecting to the spine, step, extend to pung, bend, extend to G, bend, and extend. So one of the things to think about in terms of the energy of on is that it has, in a way, two elements. It often has a drawing in and an extending out. And that's being expressed here, which is why after you've gone to G, it's not ooh, on. And that movement of the hands is what I often see in beginners. Obviously, you guys are not doing that. So you get to G, and it's ooh, on, and then turn, bending in, step, and you're beginning to extend, and you do it on the right side. So this is kind of nice. You get to do it twice. Pung, bend, G, ooh, on. So try that. So I think what I would, first thing I would say, Bill, is that you want all those movements of the arms to come from the elbow and scapula connection, not from the elbow to hand connection.
Okay,
Do you understand what I mean by that?
yes,
So that means that the hands don't move, they don't lead the movement. They're the end of the movement. And they don't move a whole lot. So um, finding that bending and lengthening in and out, going from pung to ji is difficult, and
Yeah.
I I am not in any way suggesting that it's not. Uh, I would say that's a place that you might want to really focus on,
yeah,
uh, because it is difficult to make it fit, and also then take that continuing bend at the beginning of on before you do the extend of on. So thinking of on as being two parts. It's kind of interesting. Um, Lu, or rollback as we tend to describe it, is really just um, one bend. But on continues to bend and then extends. So the um, one of the intentions of the energy of push downward is to bring the person to unbalance them, if you will, to separate them from their root and then bounce them off the earth. Um, so it really has two parts. So a work in progress. Do you have any other questions, Bill?
no, no. Um, no, I understand. It's just a matter of getting it done. So,
Yeah. um, Finding that quick in and out between pung and ji is, at least for me, was the really hard point.
yeah, and I've probably always been sloppy about that. So,
Well, we haven't really focused on it before.
Mm.
I may have mentioned it, but we haven't really focused on it. So that's part of because that is such a difficult transition right there, is part of why it really is beneficial to go slowly
Yeah.
through there. Okay, let me annoy Jeff now.
There's no annoyance. Yeah.
I'm teasing, I hope.
I'm happy for the input. Mm.
Can you raise your camera slightly? I can't see your arms.
Um, could you see him in the first part?
No?
I can try, but I'm afraid of losing the picture again.
Oh,
I will try.
You're good.
right now you're good. Oh, good. Yes. Oh, I'd like to see you again now. Um, so, Jeff, you are having the same issue in a way that Bill is. So,
Okay.
just look at me here for a moment. Let me try to be really clear, if I can, about this. So, what I'm seeing is a tendency, and that's an exaggeration, okay? But the movement is all coming from elbow to hand. So what you are hopefully looking for
Right.
is that the movements are driven by the connection from elbow to scapula and not
Hmm. Yeah, I see what you mean.
so this movement is different than this movement.
Hmm.
Do you see what I'm doing?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
This is so this is one of the pieces that we have to work on.
right.
Um, so let me come back to you again and maybe. No, what was that hand movement?
What was the hand movement?
You, we're not doing this. We're, see, this is one of those things that if you were here, I could move your body,
Right.
and I can't do that on Zoom. um,
How was it to this direction?
I I didn't, unfortunately, I didn't see that one. So try it again. That was better. Yeah, so that's coming. I'm not seeing clearly the bending in before G,
Yeah.
but that's definitely that's your homework for this week.
Yeah, definitely. Can you do that one more time? That specific part before G? Just
Sure.
really slowly.
How slowly would you like it?
Stretch it out for the rest of class.
Okay.
Just very slowly. Just
Okay.
real slow.
And I'm gonna stay close to the camera so you can
Yep. Good.
go the wrong way. So question about that?
Hmm. Can you do it to the side? The same thing, sideways?
Sure. I'll do it standing on my head if I could.
That won't help. No.
Let's see what.
Okay. I'll have to work on that.
Well, in the long form, um, the follow and focus, which is lu and on, um, occurs many times.
Right.
Um, so anyway, I think that we should probably stop at this point.
Right.
Seems to me that that's uh, good just to work on that this week and the
Yeah.
flow. But so any last minute thoughts or questions?
Well,
I would say that what I'm noticing is that my legs get involved But if my torso isn't involved, nothing works particularly well.
Yep.
And that seems to be a key to even getting the elbows to the scapula going. Otherwise, if I'm just stiff from here to here, here
Oh,
to here,
no. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
it doesn't work. So.
Well, that's fine. That's what I was saying, that I'm aware that you're doing other parts of the whole movement.
Mm.
I just want you to focus your primary attention on the arms.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, have a great week.
Yep,
All
you
right,
too.
you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys. We'll see you next week.
You too. Yeah. See you tomorrow, David.
Yes, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.